Hey guys, I think we got another short video ahead of us because we're going to talk about the same thing we did in lesson 2-3 and the other lessons. This time all we're going to do is have slightly larger numbers or slightly smaller numbers. So on this page we are talking about changing the percent as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So a couple things to remember. Find a nice festive color. And we'll go with this one. Remember. Uh-oh, we have a kitty visitor. Percent, either written as the word or as the symbol, means divide. Per means to divide by. And cent means 100. So to divide by 100. Now, how we interpret that mathematically is it makes us move the decimal left 2 places. I don't know if you hear that. There's the dog barking. Okay, it's always noisy in the Rosner household. And there's Tiana. So write each percent as a decimal and as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. So the best thing to do is decimal first. Now you might say, wait a second, it already has decimal, I'm done. But no, it's a percent. So in order to change it to a decimal, we're going to divide by 100. Now notice I have a blank spot, so I'm going to fill that in with a 0. So I get 0.0025 or 25 10,000ths. Okay? Now, when I go to a fraction, what I just read is what I'm going to write. So I've got 25 10,000ths. So that gives me a 25 over 10,000. And then I try to reduce, and I notice that both of them have a 25 in common. Anytime you end up with 2 zeros or a multiple of 25, they're both divisible by 25. So 25 divided by itself is 1. See, 25 goes in 104 times with 2 extra zeros. So the two answers that I was looking for as a decimal, 25 hundredths percent is 25 10,000ths, and as a fraction, it's 1 400th. All right, next, let's start with our decimal. So we're going to take our 300 and we're going to move the decimal point to the right twice. Notice I have, or sorry, I did that wrong, divided by, time for bed. Divide by 100 moves the decimal point left twice, and that gives me the answer of 3. And what's really weird is when I write the fraction, I just read what I saw, and I read 3. So that's my answer is 3. So I actually had the same answer both for the decimal and for the fraction. All right, let's do another one like that. So we're going to divide by 100 by moving the decimal point left twice. That's going to give me, oops, I forgot to write the word decimal. And that gave me 5.3. Now I'm going to actually read that for the fraction part. And that's going to be 5 3/10. So that tells me what to write, and I have 5 3/10. Now remember, with your fractions, always try to reduce to lowest terms if possible. So far, this last one was not possible. So those are the two answers for this one. All right, number 4 says the stock price for a corporation increased by 0.11% or 11 hundredths percent. Write 11 hundredths percent as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So let's start with the decimal. So we're going to take that percent value, we're going to cross off the percent and divide by 100 this way, and fill up those two gaps with zeros, and we get 11 10,000ths, which leads us to the next part, the fraction, and we read it and we say 11 10,000ths. And then we write 11 over 10,000. And 11's prime, so I can't reduce this. And so that's my answer. So there's the decimal answer and the fraction version of it. Okay. All right, that leads us to the next page. And this time we're going to have mixed numbers perhaps, or very, very small numbers, and we're going to go to percents this time. So a couple things to remember. Let's see, first we need to remember to write a decimal as a percent. We're going to multiply by 100. Which means we're going to move the decimal right 2 places. Oops, not a decimal, period. And then we have to add the percent symbol in order to make it a percent value. Okay, so I just talked about moving the decimal as a percent. How am I going to change these mixed numbers to a percent? So let's talk a little bit about that. A little hint. To change a mixed number, to a percent, rewrite it. That's awfully close. Let's go here. As an improper fraction. Then get the denominator equal to 100. Once we have a denominator that equals 100, the numerator is your percent number. So let's actually try that idea on this first problem over here. So we're going to multiply 10 times 2 is 20, and then we're going to add the numerator. So we get 29 tenths. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and try to get that denominator to equal 100. And then whatever we do to the denominator to get to 100, multiply by 10, we're going to do the same thing to the numerator. So that's going to give us 290 over 100. So then we're just going to grab that 290 and plunk on a percent symbol, and we call it a day. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's practice that again on number 6. Multiply 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17, and we get 17 fifths. So we want to go ahead and change that into a fraction that has a denominator of 100. And so far we're actually kind of lucky that these denominators are working out nicely. So 5 times 20 is 100. So I'm going to multiply 17 times 20. Well, I know that 17 times 2 is 34, and then there's an extra 0. So then what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab that numerator of 340, add a percent symbol, and call it done. All right, now I have some decimals, and it says, again, to rewrite a decimal as a percent, we're going to multiply by 100. So that's going to move the decimal point right 2 places. And that's going to give us 250. Remember, we have to fill in that gap with a 0 and then pop on that percent symbol. And there's our answer. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here, multiply by 100. And that's going to give us, oops, sorry, let me change my color here. 0.4, and then we add a percent symbol. So it's 0.4%. All right, last one here. Slowest land animal is the sloth. Its speed is about 16/10,000ths that of a cheetah. Write this number as a percent. Okie dokie. So let's start with 16/10,000ths. We're going to multiply that by 100, so that's going to move the decimal point to the right twice. That's going to give me 1600ths, and we add a percent symbol, and that's it. All right, good luck with this, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye now.